Join me in welcoming Devina Mehra as well as Shankar Sharma from First Global. They're here to talk about technology and how it's overpowering the old school, touchy-feely kind of investing methods and whether or not you can still win the game as an investor. Hi, both of you. Great to have you both. All safe, both vaccinated. Shankar, Devina?
Yeah, one shot each. One shot each.
Okay, at least there's no shortage in Dubai, is it? But anyway, that aside, Devina, if I could start off with you, in your latest note, you've given a very interesting anecdote as to how India was the leading hockey champion all through 1920s, all the way up to 1970s, till the developed world upped their game, and then there was no looking back for the developed world, and India was left far behind. For the benefit of our viewers, help us understand what really changed the game for India. If it was cricket, I would have asked Shankar, but since it's hockey, I'm Devina giving you a go at this.
Actually, it happened not just in hockey, in great many sports. In hockey, literally the playing field changed. In hockey, instead of playing on grass, which had these bumps and where the dribbling skill of somebody like Major Dhyan Chand was of great value. It became an AstroTurf, which was a plain surface and a very predictable surface. So then there were a different set of skills that became important, that how fast you could run, how fit you were, things like that, rather than the art of it, which is the way the subcontinent had been dominating hockey in the earlier decades. So that and so also happened. Tennis also, you've seen the whole evolution of tennis rackets, for example, from where the wooden, then better wood, then other materials came in, titanium came in, many other things. So in every game, that is one part that, either the field or the playing instruments changed. The other thing which changed was also a lot of scientific inputs came in terms of analyzing people's performance, in terms of the diet, in terms of just literally every little bit of what they did mentally, physically, and also what their competition did. So all of that could be captured, analyzed, and people could be trained accordingly. So the whole system changed.
And absolutely. Shankar, like Devina is saying, sport after sport, it's been... Right. Shankar, rightly like Devina is saying, sport after sport, the same story has been playing out. But I want to draw your attention whether or not this thing that transpired in sports over many, many decades is now applicable to the current modern day investing as well. Is technology beating the game?
Yeah, so when we say this, so we say this from the benefit or the lack of it of 30 years of having, or at least 27 years of having done it the old school way, because there was no availability of data and the cloud didn't exist, in our times. We labored in a very old school manner because that was the only school. So meeting a company, coming back to office and saying, "Yeah, uska plant acha tha." Yeah, there was more inventory lying in the shop floor, or the CEO's vision was very good, or the CFO looked very shady. All that was so old school and very labor intensive, and more than just labor intensity, it was very subject to the way we would perceive it. So if in the office, 10 guys meet the same guy, they will come away with 10 different perspectives. Because human beings will react differently to the same set of data of the same human being. You might like Shah Rukh Khan, I might hate him, or you might like Amitabh Bachchan, somebody else hates him. That's the way human beings are. We are never, ever uniform. And even in our own lives, different things appeal differently to us at different points in time. We might have liked to dress up in bell bottoms in the 60s and 70s, and we won't want to be seen dead in it today, right? That's the problem with us humans, that we are very, very emotional in our approach. In investing, that is absolutely, the opposite of what you should be, wherein you need a consistent framework through which you should look at data and data alone. No human beings matter. You are not looking at the CEO and his vision and his oratory. You are looking at only data or the industry or the country. So now, in the last 2 or 3 years, when we started to look at the investing business, we said that look, the way we have done it is not going to work, because what happens, I'll tell you, is that you will take 10 bets, out of which 1 or 2 will work spectacularly. 8 or 9 will not work. Almost all your returns will come from those 1 or 2, and we call ourselves great investors. That is nonsense. That's even worse than a toss of coin. So we said that how do we improve our odds by taking it to 55% or 60% or 70% of our bets should be winning bets? Because that is the ultimate test of skill. Less than 50-50, you are worse than a toss of coin. That's how we decided to start getting deeper into the game of quantitative investing. 3 years later, I can tell you, we feel saddened that we did not have these benefits when we started our career. It's a whole different world, and field hockey, the way it changed, investing is going to change. It's inevitable. It's like saying an auto car maker will not go EV. If you're not going to go EV, you're going to be obsoleted. That's exactly the way investment management is going to be out in the future.
Devina, you concur with Shankar? You think extremely advanced tech is going to do to investment management or portfolio management what it did to sport?
Yes, Ayesha. I am, somebody who enjoyed the art part of the investing. I did it since 1993 when neither the investors nor the companies had heard of equity research. And as I was telling someone, I used to do these road trips and in a single day go from Mothers and Sumi in Greater Noida to Bharti in Delhi on to Carrier in Gurgaon and Hero Honda in Dharuhera. And I enjoyed all of that. But, the investing game is not for what is fun or romance or or satisfaction for me personally. If you're looking from an investor point of view and you want to optimize your returns, I'll tell you where this whole machine learning, artificial intelligence things help you. Number one, you can analyze a lot more securities. You are not constrained by the human constraints. So for example, globally now we look at 25,000 securities. There's no way you can look at first, second, third derivatives of growth, and we found some of them give very good signals, which physically when you're doing it as an analyst, and I have done enough spreadsheets to know, you focus on 5, 6, 7 financial ratios, and that's about as far as you can go. Third, as Shankar was mentioning, consistency. Even if you had 1,000 analysts analyzing these 25,000 companies, there is no way what they will be looking at will be consistent. A machine is very consistent. Number 4, a machine is free of human biases. They're like whole tomes on how many cognitive biases we have as human beings. Number 5, a machine learns. So when you do something works, something doesn't work. Even if as a human being, you can see that, it becomes very difficult to acknowledge your mistakes and then to trace that why did it happen and how can I change my method so that it does not happen again. So a machine can do that. Machine looks very objectively at what went right, what didn't go right, what worked, what didn't work, how it has to be adapted. It's a learning mechanism. And a lot of also what we used to think as that only a human being can do, we found a lot of it can be coded into the machine. For example, I'll give you the manipulation, 20 years ago, Enron and WorldCom manipulated their accounts, and we incidentally got both of them, where they were doing the manipulation. Like in the case of WorldCom, it was a mismatch between their cash flows and their capex. But now we find that all of that, all the signals that we were looking at, all of that can be coded into the machine. So if the machine signals that, yes, in 1% beverages, there is some problem. So the problem might surface a year after that, but there is likely to be a problem because there is a red flag there. If you're looking at companies, earlier the other thing used to be that the data was asymmetric, that you got some information when you met the company. Now regulatorily all over the world, all information, all data is available to everyone. So in that case, then what you're relying on is, for example, conference call transcripts. Now natural language processing is moved to a point where you can actually analyze that and say that, is the management sounding less confident or more confident compared to last quarter or last year or 2 years ago? Is the level of, one of the interesting things which we look at is what management saying becoming more vague? There is a term called complexity. So complexity increasing means it's becoming more vague. So they are no longer as certain of what they are saying, or they are trying to, run circles around you or something like that. Again, one red flag. So a lot of things machine does which humans cannot do. And a lot of things which humans were doing, increasingly over time, they get transferred to the machine. But I'll also tell you where the humans come in. Because you cannot have a machine as a black box, which is what happens if only let's say a tech-only person tries to get to this kind of a system of investing, let us say. But then what happens is that you have no idea what is logical, what actually should work, which we have 30 years of experience of doing this. And as you know, in the world, there can be a whole lot of spurious correlation. You can have a correlation between consumption of cheese and number of doctorates, and it will look very good. The line looks very good. Number of people drowned and nuclear energy, the correlation is nearly 1. But none of, all those are all nonsense correlations with no causality. So you have to have a human being, first of all, involved in coding of the machine, that what you're doing is logical. And then there is also a human overlay that is needed on top of that, because not everything gets captured. Because, a COVID crisis, the machine can't see coming, or a geopolitical tension, the machine can't see. So those are the other things which come in. So it's a little complex, but yes, the playing field is very much moving away from this very touchy-feely art kind of investing.
Sure. The point you're making that it's no more art, it's now beginning to be more science. But Shankar, traditionally, like Devina was recounting her earlier days when she was rushing from, Noida all the way from the Motherson Sumi factory to Connaught Place, where the Bharti office used to be, I guess. Traditionally, one has gone through the reports, one has scanned through the Excel sheets, you visited factories. It's all been very tangible. That's how human beings have invested. It's been a lot of luck. It's been a lot of skill as well combined with that. I mean, even you've highlighted in the article that you wrote. So just wanted to understand, how is it that you change this psychological pattern? Because we as human beings would not trust a machine or an AI with our money.
Oh, you'll be surprised. I mean, think about it this way, that, by the way, thousands of investors trust us with their money. They know very well our strategy of investing. The numbers are very, very solid. So there is no problem on that front. And most of the people today understand that technology will overpower every aspect of human endeavor. At least most of it, right? Today, news reports are generated by computers. There's no longer a journalist sitting and writing things. That's inevitable. So the point is that investors today are very, very aware. They are, investment managers might be dated and old school, but investors are not. Today, the millennial population, or a guy working for a tech firm who's 35 or 40, he understands what we are doing, okay? And the guy who's 60 or 65, who's made his money through, a business, he also understands this, a rich entrepreneur, a family office, that doing things in his own business the old way is the one-way ticket to becoming obsolete. So if you're running a business and the tech of the business is changing, you cannot say that I'm just going to keep doing it in the 60s or 70s manner. So everybody understands this. The problem is doing it again, just like in the human aspect of investing. The quantitative model is also a very, very difficult thing to master, simply because, as Devina said, the skill of the people doing the code is extremely important. If you put a bunch of engineers, they will come up with something, but they have no clue how markets behaved in 1995 or how they behaved in the 80s, how they behaved in the 70s. They have not lived through a lot of the turbulence of the last 25, 30 years. They will code it differently from a bunch of people who have understood what worked what did not work, themes change. So it's actually a man or a, let's say, sorry, a human plus machine model. That is the way the investment management business will work, in which 80-90% is done by the machine. The 10% overlay comes from a very experienced set of human beings. When you put them together, you got a winning combination.
So how do you apply, Devina, this to the current day scenario? I mean, can cloud replace the investing mind? You yourself admitted that while machines can do most, the last 10% has to be done by humans. And more importantly, what is it telling you about the current day and age, the current market that we are in, which is grappling with just so much uncertainty? I mean, in India alone, we're seeing a second wave of the virus kick in. And again, the same spate of lockdowns happening. It almost seems like we're back to square one, exactly where we were same time last year.
Yeah, see, the thing is that, as I said, that I am not a believer in 100% machine. As I said, the human input has to be both in coding the machine, and then there has to be a human overlay. I'll tell you an example. Like, for example, last year in February, we could see the COVID spreading across the world slowly. I mean, it started with China, then Italy, then Japan, and suddenly you found that the whole countries were shutting down. And we thought, like, wait a minute, this looks very serious. And that's when, for example, in our global funds, we cut back drastically on equity. I mean, we were practically down to a sliver of equity, and we had gone into fixed income and commodities and, some other things. And also, then, of course, we also got the up move, but that's another matter. The point, as I made earlier also, that there are some things which will come from human beings, even over and above what the machine is producing. So the output of the machine, there is an human overlay to that. And even in terms of turbulence, actually, as I said, many of the things which you think are human now, maybe, a few years later, even those will pass on to machine. Then we are finding even in the last 2-3 years, that evolution happening in our own systems, that there was a human overlay. Now we find that some of what we were doing humanly, we can again pass on to the machine, provided you know what's going on in the machine. We do not believe in a black box output that the machine is recommending this, and you just blindly go and do it when you don't even understand the logic behind it. So any recommendation that our system makes, we always understand what is the logic, where it's coming from. And yes, there is still at the end, there is still that 10%, 15% of the human overlay. Where we do not believe in a human overlay is risk management, because that's when your human biases will derail you. So if the system tells us that something has to be sold, we do not allow a human being to justify why, you should still hold it, because risk management is God. And, it shows up in our results also. We find that, not only are our returns better, we find our volatility or the risk side is also managed far better. That volatility is half the market volatility almost across in all our products.
Let me add to that. Ayesha, what happens when you, as a human being, you have very limited skills of being able to understand. And as a result of that, the portfolio you build will be 5 stocks, 10 stocks, 15 stocks. Because as Warren Buffett said, that circle of competence, right? That I only invest in things I understand. But as a human being, you cannot understand everything. It's not possible. Now what happens is when you build a narrow portfolio, you become very, very susceptible to the factor of luck. That means that maybe all 10 don't work, or maybe only 2 work, or maybe only 1 works. 8 or 9, just become duds. That is not the way you should run and manage public money. That's great for proprietary investing. That's the way we have done it, by the way, okay? When a few stocks will contribute to virtually 90, even 100, even 105% of your net worth. But that is not the way you can or should run public money, because that is basically luck. We got lucky with Amazon. We got lucky with HDFC Bank. I mean, while there was some analysis, but who could have said that they will go up 200, 300 times? Nobody could have predicted. So up to a point, it was skill. The rest was luck. That is where machines come in. They improve the scope of skill and reduce the scope of luck. That is a huge, huge factor to keep in mind.
And just one more point on what Shankar said, that when you are constrained by your fund manager's circle of competence, which essentially means the fund manager's comfort zone, means many of those bets will likely to be highly correlated. So if a fund manager can understand, for example, branded businesses or businesses with good cash flows, and that's where he or she sticks to, what you will find is that even if, let us say, that fund manager is holding 15 or 18 stocks in their portfolio, it will still be in 2-3 industry or baskets, and which tend to move together. So as an investor, you are worse off because there is no reason why your portfolio should not be optimized, why you should be constrained with what your fund manager is comfortable with.
Quite interesting. Shankar, Devina, both of you, thank you as always for taking the time out and joining in. And Shankar, just for the record, because you talked about it, I'm a fan of Amitabh Bachchan and Ranbir Kapoor. But great speaking with both of you, and we should catch up when you're in India next.
Sure thing. Thanks very much.
Thanks, I agree on the Ranbir Kapoor.
Absolutely. Okay. Great to have you both on the show.